Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you surely know that this is my deep dive into an intriguing and intense, an expansive and expanding deck called the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light. And so, if you are new here, just in case, let me give you a brief rundown of what we're doing here. Every night, before I go to bed, I shuffle my mass market color version of the Egyptian Tarot, and I pull a daily draw for the day, thinking of the question, what would I benefit from giving my attention to the following day? And then I pull the same card, yes, the same card, from my out-of-print charcoal gray and white deck of the same Egyptian Tarot. And I notice the differences. There are differences. Sometimes the differences are great. Sometimes they're very small. But I notice the differences, and I look at the zodiacal information on the card. And then I ask for some help. I get the help from another deck that I'm becoming more familiar with, a deck that I did a deep dive with a little more than 6 months ago, last year, during the summer, called the Tarot of the Holy Light by the wonderful Christine Payne-Towler, who is an inspiration and a great mentor for me. So I used that deck. I do a 3-card spread. Yeah, very standard. Significance, challenge, advice. The significance of the daily draw for me, the challenge of the daily draw for me, as far as either something to aim for, something to strive to achieve, or something that could be an obstacle. Challenge has different meanings, right? And then the advice. And then I go to sleep and I live my day, and then I come back at the end of the day and I go through my analysis of the cards and read the guidebooks and think about things, and then I come here and I do this video, which is what I'm doing right now. And so I'm all ready. Are you all ready? Let's look at the daily draw card for today, right now. What do you think of this card? I was a little jazzed, frankly, when I saw this card appear as my daily draw card. I like aces. Aces are kind of cool, right? They're the initiators. They're the seeds of the rest of their suit. And so let me show you these cards again, so you can see them again side by side and get a little bit of a longer gaze at them. And you can see that there are differences in the decks, right? The coins are different. The coin in the older deck is more geometric, whereas the coin in the modern color deck has a face on it, a head for the heads and tails of the coin. You'll also notice that the stars for the constellations are both placed differently, and that there are fewer stars in the older version. Very interesting differences. However, the significance of both of these cards are the same. And the constellations are also, frankly, the same. They're just drawn differently. We perhaps have found more stars in the constellation since this deck was first published. Actually, this deck was very first published in the 1930s, like 1936, I think. And then there was a republishing around my birthday, the year of my birth. And then there was another publishing after that. And then there were, the color version came out in the early 2000s. So this deck has been around for a while. And frankly, it has been languishing on my shelf for a while until I felt ready to do this deep dive, and here we are. So, what is this card? You see that we've got Libra twice at the top, and we've got the planet Venus once at the bottom. So what does that mean? That means that the Ace of Coins points to the Libra decadent of Libra and its subruler Venus, from which the cardinal aspects of cardinal air, vital attributes, enter our world. And as I'm speaking, the card is going around. But yeah, we've got the Libra decadent of Libra and the cardinal aspect of cardinal air, the subruler being Venus. So we can think of Venus here, pouring information and attributes and characteristics through the Libra decadent of Libra, which I sometimes think of as supersized Libra, through the house of Libra, right down into the world, into our natal charts into the situation we're asking about. And just in case you missed it and you aren't sure what I mean by the Libra decadent of Libra, let me just give you a little blurb. Yeah, each zodiac sign has a house, and that zodiac sign is also broken up into 3 parts, each of them 10 degrees of a 360-degree wheel. And so there's the first decadent, the second decadent, and the third decadent. One set of 10 degrees, one decadent, 10, second decadent, third decadent. The first decadent is always the same as the same sign as the whole house and the zodiac sign. So for example, the first decadent of the Libra sign is the Libra decadent of Libra. And the other 2 are the other zodiac signs within the same element. So Libra is air. So the other 2 air signs of the zodiac, which would be Gemini, well, in order would be Sagittarius, Aquarius, and Gemini, going in that order, right? So right here, we've got, again, the Libra decadent of Libra, the very first one, which makes sense because this is the ace. And so what do we have here? Oh, the constellation. The constellation up on these cards, though, again, actually I lied, didn't I? I lied, didn't I? The older deck actually has more stars than the newer deck. Isn't that interesting? Usually it's the other way around. I forgot. The older deck actually seems to have more stars attributed to this constellation, to the constellation, than this card, the more modern card, does. But they're both, we assume, are the same constellation. And that constellation is Serpens. And let me show you that constellation right now. So that is the constellation of Serpens. Serpens, what does that sound like? Serpens, serpent, snake, right? And so what is the constellation of Serpens? Well, there are various myths surrounding this constellation. However, the one that seems the most prevalent, and probably the one that C.C. Zane was thinking of when making sure that that constellation got on this card, is the one from Greek mythology, which is Serpens constellation representing a giant snake being held by the healer Asclepius. And the healer Asclepius was the son of the god Apollo and was said to have the great healing powers, including that of bringing the dead back to life. And Asclepius was, it is said, learned that art by watching a snake. Now, Asclepius had basically killed one snake, and another snake came and laid herbs on the first snake, the snake that Asclepius had killed, and that snake came back to life. And so Asclepius searched out those herbs and used that as his method of bringing people back from the dead. That's the myth. And then he got his place in the sky as also the son of a god. So you got to go figure there's a little bit of privilege there, right? So that's what we've got in this card. Yeah, it was said that Asclepius had learned a technique for bringing people back to life, and is generally considered the healer par excellence. So what does all that mean in reference to these cards, both of them being the Ace of Discs? And have you noticed something, perhaps? If you haven't been watching this series, did something seem disjointed? That I was talking about the discs and I was talking about Libra and air and all of that? Yes, the discs suit in this deck is for the air signs, not the earth signs. The swords, on the other hand, are for the earth signs and not the air signs. So we've got those mixed up. Those things, not mixed up, I'm sorry. Those are replacing each other in this deck. And there are other decks that do things like that, right? There are decks who, for example, the Udes Picard changes the swords and the cups. There are decks where the swords and the wands get changed out. So that's not a new thing. It's been done before. But what do we get here? The interesting thing is that, yes, this is an air suit, an air with air sign attributions, and yet it seems to all be about money. So here, I guess, the creator of this deck assumes that our thoughts are about money. And that's why associating thinking and money, I suppose. So what do we get from the Ace of Coins here? We get money from the sale of a manuscript, for example. We get cash in on artistic dexterity, focus on versatile talents. We get ideas of writing and lecturing for, you guessed it, money. Friendly conversation. There are some social interaction attributions here. Friendly conversation, rewarding conversation in a social atmosphere. Union of ideas, the joining of things, which is good for Libra, right? The union, the balancing of things, especially with Venus here in Libra, the union. Venus is a uniting planet. Marriage for money. Venus, marriage, sure, yeah. But for money. Happy frame of mind, a love of study. Those are all things, a lot about money, right? So it was interesting for me to think about how that related to me, especially while I'm here working at a camp. We'll talk about it a little bit more. One interesting thing was questions about submitting tax documents suddenly appeared today because the deadlines for my submitting, we have to submit our taxes through our workplace here in South Korea. Well, we don't have to, but that's the easiest way to do it. So we submit our taxes through our workplace, and the deadline for doing that is coming up is coming apace. And being here away from civilization in this camp, that's going to be very challenging. And so there was some conversation about that later in this evening, just a little while ago. So that might have been one thing that this was pointing to. But we'll talk about that again in just a little bit. Let's get to those cards which are helping me to unpack this daily draw card for me for the day. Yeah, let's look at the cards I got from the Tarot of the Holy Light. Here they are. You just saw those three cards, starting from left to right. The first was the Four of Discs. Now remember, the discs in the daily draw card are air, and here the discs are earth, as we would normally expect. So yes, discs, coins, similar, but very different in the two different decks. So we got the Four of Discs, and then we got the, I have to check, the Ace of Wands, and then we got the Ace of Wands reversed. So another ace, right? Ace of Coin, Ace of Wands. And then we got the Devil reversed. So we got two reversed cards and one upright. And maybe if you're wondering what the F, the Tarot of the Holy Light is intended to be used with reversals. Okay, actually, the Egyptian Tarot is also intended to be used with reversals, but I ain't doing that. I'm not ready for that quite yet. So I'm only reading that deck with upright meanings. I'm only shuffling upright cards into that deck. The Tarot of the Holy Light, however, I have been using with reversals since the first crack out of the box. So what I do is I split the deck in half, I turn half around, and I riffle shuffle. I riffle shuffle it, and then I put it back together, and I split the deck, and I turn half of it around, and I riffle shuffle. And I do that 8 times for one shuffle. So I shuffle in very deliberately reversals into this deck. So when I do get either 3 cards all upright or 3 cards reversed, that seems to be rather significant. Here we've got 1 upright, 2 reversed. And we'll start with the first one. We'll start with the Four of Discs. Here it is. It's a beautiful card, isn't it? You see this beautiful eagle with 4 discs below her, him, them. Those 4 discs in different colors. We see below those discs a fire raging, right? And above the eagle, up in the air, we have the moon, turned down, shining moist radiance upon the fire below. And we've got all this beautiful nature around. There's an owl up there. There's what looks like a parrot maybe. There's maybe a stork on one side, and maybe a pelican. I'm not sure about that one. Anyways, there are birds around here as well. There are other birds. And so this is a lovely card. Above the moon, there's a little divine triangle with a little itty bitty divine eye, I believe. So what do we get in this card? Here is the Virgo decanate of Taurus and its subruler Mercury, from which the mutable aspect of fixed earth vital attributes enter our world. Now, the Virgo decanate of Taurus, which would be the second decanate from, it depends on how you count. Some people would count from 10 to 19. Some people count from 11 to 20. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. There are significances in ways of describe or separating the chart if you're reading a natal chart. But for our purposes right here, it really is 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. We're really looking at broader spectrum things, at least I am. So here we have again the Virgo decanate of Taurus. So the planet associated with Virgo is Mercury. And that's how we get the subruler Mercury in here. But also we have, this being the second decanate, we have a complement. Now the complement, being an upright card, is Venus in Aries. So we also have Venus beaming its information and wisdom and attributes, not only through Libra in our card for the day, but here through Aries. So we've got Venus helping to unpack two different cards here for us. One in an air sign and one in a fire sign. So what does that all mean? What's it all about, Alfie? So let's begin with Venus in the house of Mars, because I think this is very interesting. Venus in the house of her partner Mars. Aries is the domicile of Mars, right? Aries and her partner of Mars, she adapts to the circumstances of living or being in the home of her partner, which is her complement, but still different, very different from her. Well, where Venus could be uniting and soft and open and beauty, Aries is let's get it done, let's do it, let's move, let's advance, let's get it done. So when Venus moves into his house and tries to raise his children, she's not going to be able to do her soft, lovey-dovey kind of life. She's going to have to adapt. She's colored by the house that she's radiating through and within. So perhaps she's going to be raising her nestlings. Now this raptor here reminds us of the Empress, right? The shield of an Empress in a lot of Marseille texts, for both the Emperor and the Empress, have the imperial bird being this kind of a raptor. So she rears her nestlings with the active power necessary for their Martian home. That's what I said. Yeah, Venus in this house rears her nestlings with the active power necessary for survival in the house of her compatriot, her partner, Mars. So some attributes that I think of and remember when I see this raptor, these four things can be the elements, but they could also be her chicks in shells, right? Chicks being baby birds, not the other kind of chicks. So entitlement is a blessing. Yeah, this imperial bird, her children are entitled. And they have a lot of potential, a lot of possibilities. But also there's a burden associated with it. There are expectations that these chicks, these chicklings are going to have to live up to if they're going to be evaluated well. But still, great accomplishments are possible in this for these chicks, for these chicklets. And the fire below reminds us that growth is sped up. And still in that sped up, that hyper, not active, but the hyper growth atmosphere of this card, talents and potentials are still able to be expressed. Now, these chicks here also will need the willpower, the drive, the ambition, the passion, and a high tolerance for risks, and have to be able to enjoy the excitement of facing danger. Because that's the kind of bird this is, right? That's what a raptor has to do, has to survive, is enjoy the danger, enjoy the excitement of the chase, enjoy the ambition and the drive to do stuff and get stuff and fly out and catch stuff, right? That's what a raptor is. So we've got that here. Now we've got Virgo organizing the bounty of Taurus. So there needs to be organization. There need to be detailed plans, perhaps. There need to be a methodology to accomplishing tasks. With Mercury, Mercury is being shaded by Mercury's not Venus, Virgo, Virgo home here, right? Virgo being the organizer. So Mercury settles down a bit and needs to get organized and figure out what he's going to say or she's going to say, they're going to say. Figure out what they're going to do. As we engage with the Tauran bounty and a little bit slower pace, even slower than Virgo, right? But still, we're in the home of Mars. So we got to live up to the challenge. So what is the next card? What is the speaking of challenge, what is the challenge for me? And that is the Ace of Wands here in reverse. And here, let me show it to you upright. We've got this beautiful, beautiful sapling. Now this first shoot of a plant with this radiant sun for a flower or for the top of the plant, and a hand reaching through the clouds to grasp that stem. With fire behind, of course, because the wands are a fire suit. If that fire is not there to burn up the plant, although it could burn up the plant because it's such a baby plant, but that fire is here to express the power and the force and the vitality, I think, of the suit that is potential in this card. And what is the Ace of Wands? The Ace of Wands is the Aries decadent of Aries. We got Aries again here. And its sub-ruler, Mars, from which the cardinal aspect of cardinal fire vital attributes enter our world. And this, as a reversed card, also brings in another domicile of Mars, which is Scorpio. So we also have Scorpio, Mars beaming through Scorpio. We've got Mars beaming through supersized Aries, Aries decadent of Aries, and we've got Scorpio, because this is a reversed card, we have Mars beaming through Scorpio as well. So we've got both of those houses coloring our understanding of this card. Beautiful card, but what's it all about? Well, Mars in Scorpio is intuitive. Mars in Scorpio is persistent and driven. Like my grandmother. I guess my grandmother is kind of a Scorpio reversed kind of lady, was a kind of Scorpio reversed kind of lady. Because she was that. She was persistent. She was driven. She was a little bit intuitive. She read cards way before I was born. And she read cards during the Depression. And she stopped because she got spooked. Because apparently she predicted somebody's death. And she said, nope, not doing that anymore. But my grandmother was, I think, a closet intuitive. And she She had cards. She had, do you know the Gypsy Witch cards? I know that's not a word that we like using now, and I don't particularly like using it now, but that is the name of the deck. And it's a deck that has been in publication for decades. So much so that even my grandmother had a deck of those. They're kind of like an expanded Lenormand, or a bit, yeah, they're like an expanded Lenormand of like 52 cards. So she had one of those laying around in her house, which was intriguing. I mean, yeah, I never saw her use them, but they were there. So yeah, the Ace of Wands reversed. Mars in Scorpio, intuitive, but persistent, driven, which adds a shade of color to this card. And there are many possibilities for this card in reverse. There are things like premature termination of long desired plans, perhaps, or even of a birth, which it would not associate, which would have nothing to do with me, not really. Things that had started may have been spoiled, or the beginning was postponed, or perhaps you started something and the handoff to somebody else has run afoul. Sometimes circumstances just won't let some things start yet. So we still have the potential to engage our will, to focus on our desires, to make preparations, to clear away obstacles as they appear themselves, to empower the change perhaps from this to this. We still have that potential. It could also have the meaning of dedicating this moment to projects that will get us started in a new direction. It could be telling us to let some stuff go and focus on the things that really will get traction, right? Things that will start moving once the rubber hits the road. That maybe some of the things we had been putting our energy and our attention into are non-starters, but we can focus our energy on the things that have the real potential instead. That could be this as well. So a lot of things to mull over with this. And then we arrive at the Devil. Now the Devil, reversed. Let me show it to you upright. This is a gorgeous card. You see the peacock feathers above the head of the being? You see that the being is an androgen, both male and female in one, split down the middle. You see that one side has a spout of fire, one side has a spout of water. You see below this creature in the center, there are two human figures, one presenting male, one presenting female, one presenting lighter, one presenting darker, which are both coming to join each other in an embrace of some kind. It's a gorgeous deck with the sun in the middle of them. Both of them of a certain age, apparently, yeah. Both beings have white hair. Gorgeous card, gorgeous deck with the divine triangle above in the peacock feathers. This is fabulous. And the association in this deck for this card is Sagittarius. So the Devil points to Sagittarius, which is the domicile of Jupiter, an expansive, lucky, beneficial planet from which these mutable fire vital attributes enter our world. Mutable fire vital attributes. So Jupiter beams through Sagittarius and colors our world. Jupiter is Sagittariusing. So there are, again, this is in reverse. And in reverse, upright, we get ideas things that I like, or the things are like Sophia, remembering who she is as she has been trapped or has been bound by consciousness in the mortal realm that she helped to create, in the material realm that she helped to create here in Malkuth. There are some very interesting and very beneficial and uplifting meanings for the Devil card in this deck. Reversed, we've got some of the shadier meanings that are giving us not necessarily, you're a bad person, but rather things to be aware of and things to watch out for and things to circumvent. And one of those things is the possibility of hubris, self-centeredness, narcissism. Careful of those things, yeah? Because hubris can inflate us to the degree that we lose touch with reality, which would not be beneficial to us. It could be also reminding us of the taboo against straying beyond social norms. Things like self-fulfillment, which is the realizing of one's deepest desires and capacities. If we really realize our deepest desires and our capacities, we may be stepping outside of the bounds of normal, polite society. So this is a potential hazard, and if you decide to do that, be aware of what you're doing, right? Or looking too deeply into our inborn, God-given, natural, and innocent characteristics to perhaps free the inner being that we have entrapped. And perhaps that would be the next card, right? Which is the Tower. The cracking open so that being could be liberated. Now this could be that step between the devil upright and the Tower upright, where one of the potential understandings could be the cracking open of the prison walls so that the true being of light and love and joy and spirit can reveal itself in the Tower, right? So there are all of these possible meanings, possible understandings of this card. So what makes sense in the overall reading that we've been focusing on? Well, we've got the idea of money, of study, of unions of ideas, which moves us into this idea of potential, of entitlement and blessing, but also of potential for great accomplishments, potential for potentials, and this speeding up of growth and development. The call for willpower, drive, and ambition in the Four of Discs. Then the Ace of Wands reversed reminded us that there might be things that have been poor starters or things that aren't working out the way we thought they would work out, but there's something we can do. Now we can focus on our desires and prepare the ground for new seeds to grow. We can also dedicate our attention to things that are working rather than the things that are not. And so moving through those things, the card giving us the advice in this one, I think is saying that to look within, to discover who we are. But be careful, because you might discover that who you are may be not as acceptable as you think you want to be. No? So let me tell you about my day. It was a good day. I started off with a class in the morning, and that class, what did we do? We rehearsed. No, I set them to finishing up making their props and making their posters, because we're going to have 2 hours on Monday to rehearse their scripts before the final dress that night. So I did that. I sent them off, and I helped guide them. And I have been worried, because one of my 3 classes is way behind in preparing for their performance. Their costumes are not ready, their props are not ready, the blocking is not ready. It's a fairly complicated script that they've written, and so I've been really, really worried about that and them. And I was thinking, man, am I going to have to spend a lot of time outside of class on my own trying to help them, trying to do stuff for them so that they can catch up? And then I realized that this morning, I was able to pull like 3 students to help me work on the other classes' stuff. I had 3 of them cutting out leaves to make a tree. I figured out a way that the students in that other class had tried to make a tree, and it was just a disaster. They tried it once, it was a disaster. They tried it a second time, and it was a bigger disaster. It just fell apart. And they're frankly not careful of the things that they make. Honestly, they're not careful of the things they make. They make something, they bring it in, and then they plop it on the ground, and it falls apart. And it's not only just the structural weakness of what it is, it's also that they're not handling stuff carefully. They plop, let's put things away, and they just pile stuff up in one pile, not even considering that they might be crushing some of their own work down there at the bottom of the pile. So there was that. So instead, what I did is I've been racking my brains, figuring out what I could do and how much time would it take for me to do what I could do. And as I was going to breakfast this morning, I happened to notice a tree that had been cut down and chopped up. And I thought, maybe I could scavenge some, I'm not cutting down any trees, scavenge some cut branches, and maybe I could, with these dry, dead branches, I could maybe attach some paper leaves to them so that we got the suggestion of a tree. Maybe that would work. And so I got to work on, I had one group of students, 3 I said, cutting out green paper leaves for that project, part of the project. I had another student putting brown paper on a cardboard box to represent a cauldron for a witch. So I got them working on not only their stuff, but other people's things. So maybe that was part of the focus on versatile talents, friendly conversation. We were talking pretty well. The union of ideas, needing to be ambitious and driven and getting people organized in the 4 of discs. Finding new ways around things, perhaps, in the Ace of Wands reversed. Maybe that was going on there. Then after that class, I had to type up some letters for students, and I got that done. No, I got one class done. Because then I went back and I wanted to work on the props for this other class a little bit more and get other things together. And then I had my second class of the day, which went well. We rehearsed the play twice. I had hoped that we would be able to rehearse it more than twice, but we got through it twice. They're not off script yet, which is worrisome, but I told them, you got to get off script by Monday. So that was okay. And then I went up to lunch, and I came back from lunch, and I finished typing one set of letters. I worked on their other plays props a little bit more. I went to dinner, came back here, and then the whole thing about the taxes came up. I discovered, now an interesting thing here, we do a lot of our tax stuff online here, which is great. But the information for taxes is not available from the government until the 18th of January. My school requires that we turn in the documents for our taxes by the 26th of January. Not even 10 days, right? From the 18th to the 26th. And all during that time, I am out in the middle of nowhere teaching a winter camp. So there was an hour or so of how the heck am I going to do this? If I don't do it, it's not like the end of the world, but I would have to wait until May, I think it is here, May, and then go into a tax office and have somebody help me in it. It's in the middle of the semester, and it becomes much more difficult and much more time consuming and much more frustrating. I don't want to do that, but we couldn't see another way around it. But then my roommate my housemate here, who also works with me at the same campus and also got the messages, came out of his room, and he said, I've got it figured out. We're going to do what we have to do online, which we can do, which we were planning on doing. And then we will scan and send signed documents to his apartment mate, where we live, because he didn't come up here. And he will print that out, and he will bring them to our university and turn them in for us. So maybe this is all going to work out okay. Maybe. I think it is going to work out okay. And so does that make sense that these cards were revealing the events of the day for me today? That healing, the healing, perhaps I did encounter some healing today because I really was beating myself over the, I was beating myself up about how to get the one class of students who were clearly not prepared ready for the big rehearsal on Monday evening. And maybe that those solutions that I was able to find that weren't as painful and as burdensome as I was afraid they were going to be. Maybe that was that resurrection meaning from this serpent here. Serpenta, what is the name of it again? Serpens, maybe. But those ideas of well, money from artistic endeavors, well, you know, that's what I'm getting paid for doing artistic things here, kind of. That makes sense. Happy freedom of mind, love of study. Yeah, I love studying this. Sure. I did have some friendly conversations, yes. Unions of ideas. I'm working on that. I'm continuing to work on that. So with those things and the Four of Discs together, this unpacking this most specifically, yeah, I guess there are some accomplishments that were possible for me today here. I guess that with willpower and my drive and my taking risks that, not huge risks, like I wasn't driving my car to try and leap over buses or anything, that kind of risk. I was taking the risk to do things that were outside of the box a little bit, bringing in real tree branches to be props. Nobody else is thinking of doing things like that, I don't think. Using this, asking for the help of the students of one group to work on the props for another group. That's a little bit outside of the box. And again, not hugely outside of the box, but a little bit. And yes, the challenge was that there were false starts and how we got into this position in the first place. That kind of makes sense with the Ace of Wands reversed and the Devil reversed, of looking inside and finding the truth of who I am as a teacher and an artist. Yes, I am an artist. I am an actor. I'm a theater person. And I don't think I've been able to express my talents as a theater person well yet here. And maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll see. We'll see. This is my first camp here and my first time working with this kind of student in this kind of time frame. So, yeah. That's it. That's the ticket. Maybe that is the ticket. Maybe that is the ticket. What do you think? I'd love to hear from you. What do you think? Does this make sense to you? Let me know in the comments below. Yeah, and if you are still here, hit that thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you got something out of this and other people might get something out of it. It draws more eyes to the channel. Bit by bit, it does. Also, subscribe if you haven't subscribed and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. I'm doing one a day until the new moon in February. And then I'll go back to my old schedule as the new semester begins for us. Also, if you want a reading from me, my email address is below, thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com. Send me an email, we'll get you a reading. Oh, and if you want to get these decks, both of them are available. The Tarot of the Holy Light is available. There is a link in the description box below. Click on that and go get yourself this deck. It is wonderful for expanding our ability to read tarot, to understand the diversity of ways of looking at tarot, for incorporating the zodiac and astrology into our readings of tarot, which I thought I would never do, and yet here I am working on doing just that. So this really is a wonderful learning tool for tarot, I believe. and a beautiful deck as well, and beautiful cardstock. It is wonderful shuffling, this cardstock. They're a little bit big, but great shuffler. And also, again, the mass market version of the Egyptian Tarot is also readily available at a very good price. I've got an Amazon link for that below. I don't get any money if you use that link. It's just there for your convenience. So there we are, friends. Here we are. And thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me. And thank you for joining me on this deep dive, this journey through the Egyptian Tarot. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.